mommy's looking at the little lesbian girl and saying, you're going to have a baby just like I did, and you're going to breed, and you're going to keep the line going on and on and on. And that's a kind of annihilation of the self that's in the limbic system and in the body, and internalized, and needs to be stood up to aggressively. Okay, so like I said, I was going to try to follow the outline, but I jumped ahead a little bit, but it'll all come together. Okay. So that anyway, so this is what I wanted to talk about. That this is a tool that you can use in working with clients and in doing inner work with yourself. Okay. So there's three basic ways that the double manifests in relationship between women. One is called the partner. One is called like the youth adult, and one is called the competitor. So I want to give you some examples. So the youth adult, for example, is if you have a teacher and a student, like a real classic youth adult pattern is if you have like a teacher-student kind of relationship. And what I read you from Helen Keller when she was talking about Annie Sullivan, she's really evoking this this aspect of the double, this youth adult. There's this partner where I talked about where you feel like this person has my back, this person is with me, and it's an inner figure in the psyche. Okay, and then when it goes to the kind of dark side, then it shows up as a competitor. She shows up as a competitor. So I think we're all familiar with like that can happen among women. And often it shows up it's in the mother-daughter relationship. It can show up in the mother feeling competitive with the daughter, like feeling envious of the daughter, feeling hatred of the daughter, feeling that the daughter has the father's love that the mother doesn't have. It can show up in that relationship really intensely. And then it gets constellated that way in the psyche of the child. Okay.
Sandra?
Yeah.
It seems to me like also with the sister aspect, kind of that's in some ways it's caught up in the competitor as well in our culture, because the eros is not between the sisters but going out towards either the parents in terms of a sibling rivalry or the object of love or something. So oftentimes when it seems to me like even when we imagine a sister relationship, it's like it's only as good as if they are not like kind of in a fight, or as long as they're not in like some kind of going after the same guy or going after the same thing, or they're getting the parents' love or whatever it is. So it seems, as I'm talking, of course, I'm having to partner like, how dare I speak in here, because it's like I'm a guy and I'm not supposed to be talking here. This is about lesbians, and like the attacks just like you don't know what you're talking about. And how dare you say anything? So I'm just naming that too. But I think it just was something really important when you said this thing about sister, that there's something missing about the way we imagine sisterhood in our culture. That the love isn't between them.
Right, right. In fact, I was just watching Dr. Zhivago because I love Julie Christie. I was trying to get inspired for this, and I'm always looking for images that are going to evoke this, the soul figure. And I don't know if anybody knows the story, but she and Geraldine Chaplin, like there's this thing at the back, like they really like each other, but they never get together. there's all these guys between them, and they, it's like they like each other, but it's like they never get together. And you can, my kids were spinning this other story, like, oh, you could see this whole other story that could happen here, where Geraldine Chaplin and Julie Christie are brought together by this, guy, but he's just there to bring them together. Like, that's the point. Yeah. So, yeah, you can see that missing. It's like you can feel that missing when you see stories and films and movies. It's like that. It never goes in that direction, ever. And there's this real scarcity and emptiness there. It always goes towards procreation, birthing babies, carrying on the line, the lineage. It always goes in that direction. Yeah, very frustrating.
Very.
Yeah, frustrating to watch. So I want to, one of the things that was happening to me as I was getting ready for this talk and like trying to feel into like lesbian history and lesbians throughout history and the presence of the double throughout history. Basically there's these, I wanted to read to you this. This is from, I talked about this last month, but this is Enheduanna. She was a priestess in Sumer, 2400 BC. She wrote these poems to Inanna, who was a goddess. And she's the first one to speak from the I, like to actually identify herself by name as a person. But this is, here is her idea of this is her, so we could say that when she was writing about Inanna, this is her soul figure that she's projecting outward onto this deity. What she says is, Inanna, child of the moon god, a soft bud swelling, her queen's robe cloaks the slender stem on her smooth brow. She paints fire beams and fearsome glint, fastens carnelian, blood red and glowing around her throat, and then her hand clasps the seven-headed mace. She stands as in youth's prime. Her right hand grasps the mace. She steps her narrow foot on the furred back of a wild lapis lazuli bull, and she goes out white-sparked, radiant in the dark vault of evening sky, star steps in the street through the gate of wonder. Kind of a cool, butchy, erotic image of this powerful woman. Like, we don't get those kind of, this is another thing, we don't get these kind of images of women. Like, she's standing on the back of a lapis lazuli bull with a mace, and she's like, she's got this soft bud swelling, what's that? Feminine, but, on the other hand, she's she stands as in youth's prime. So there's this, like, this is like the first, so, this is part of what I have to partner here. It's like, I talked about this last time, and it's like, you said this once, so you can't say it again. It's like, fuck, man, like, how often do people talk about, you say one thing about lesbians, and you're never allowed to say it again. Like, that's it, you're supposed to be done. And it's like, I think some of these things bear repeating. So, I'm repeating. I was here last time, but anyway, the point being, that basically Enheduanna's relationship with her double in her psyche, okay, was the engine that drove her to project onto Inanna and onto this goddess this imagery. This is coming out of her psyche, and she's projecting it, okay, and she's absolutely enthralled by Inanna, as a result of her making a relationship with this force in her psyche, this force that is in love with Inanna, with this feminine, this powerful feminine, she becomes the first human being on the planet to write from the I. Okay, she's like the first ego. Okay, there was nobody before her that we know of Whoever said, I so-and-so. Okay? So basically, you know, what I want to propose here is that lesbian love is an engine of consciousness. Okay? That lesbian love is the engine of consciousness that through listening to this voice, to this presence, and making a relationship with this presence in the psyche, it gave her the wherewithal to become an I, to become me. And that power is still with us today. And I think that we're at a time in history where cultivating that relationship, women cultivating that relationship with this inner double, whether charged by Eros or not, is what is needed to bring into being a new form of consciousness that has to do with introversion and being psychological and recalling projections and owning one's own shadow and being one's authentic self more and more and more in the world. How do I be my authentic self? And she is the engine in the psyche that's going to stand behind me when I'm standing here and I'm trying to talk about this. She's standing behind me whether I can feel her or not, because I'm drowning in toxic shame or whatever, you know. But she's standing behind me saying, speak it and go for it and say it and do it, because this is what you're supposed to be doing, and speak about how hard it is and the inferior parts of who you are. And don't just pretend like this is easy. And don't just pretend like it's simple or like you're really smart and you got it all together and you know it all. Like let people know like that there's other things going on here besides just a really pretty picture. No. Yeah. So, that's the force in the psyche that's driving us towards authenticity and towards being ourselves. Inanna, so another story about Inanna is she goes down to the underworld to meet the Erich Kegel, who's the goddess of death and the underworld. And Judy Grahn, who's a fantastic lesbian poet, I recommend her highly to everybody. But she did like what I would call an active imagination, where she imagined that Erich Kegel was the owner of a dyke bar in the underworld. And that Inanna was this kind of unhappily married woman, and with a husband and kids and all that stuff, and that Inanna goes down into the underworld, into this dyke bar, and as a result of her encounter with Erich Kegel, at this butch dyke, she is completely and totally transformed into her authentic self, and all of the trappings of her heterocentric life are torn away as a result of her encounter with Erich Kegel. And Judy Grahn calls Inanna, and she is known as the Queen of Heaven, and she calls Erich Kegel her wild cherry sister. So that's, I want to give credit here to her. And I want to share with you just this little piece of this poem. It's called Descent to the Butch of the Realm. And this is Erich Kegel talking to Inanna. She says, I want you to stand as I stand before you, tremulous with expectation as I reach to tangle all my fingers in your hair, to rip away the veil of your perpetual smile, and then to strip off your scarf of limitations, even the birthright of your long hair itself. Do my stark eyes surprise? My name is Naked of Expectations. And I want to bend you as I am bent to nip your neck, unclasping your lapis blue necklace. Ever notice how it keeps you from talking? You're going to do a lot of talking.